please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, on to a special on CNBC TV 18. The Global Entrepreneurship Congress is underway in Turkey's Istanbul. The annual event is being attended by entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers and thought leaders from across 170 countries. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant is leading the Indian delegation at the summit. In fact, he has been awarded the Best Policymaker of the Year by the GEC Council. We have Mr. Kant joining us now from Istanbul. Mr. Kant, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. And to start with, congratulations to you, sir. Let me start by asking you about what the policy imperative is going to be now as far as the Startup India mission is concerned. You would agree that there has been a degree of disappointment, especially on the tax-related issues. We've just seen that clarification come forward on Section 56, but a lot of entrepreneurs as well as investors that we've spoken to are disappointed with that. What do you believe is going to be the policy imperative now to give Startup India that fillip?
Shereen, thanks first for. I think the award is for the country as a whole. It's for all the entrepreneurs, all the startup initiatives that the country has taken. 3.5 years back, when we started the Startup India initiative, a lot of our startups were going to Silicon Valley. Many of them were going to Singapore. We are now seeing a reverse trend, actually. We're seeing a number of them come into India. And I think India as a whole has been able to create an ecosystem where we've been able to support young entrepreneurs. We've been able to support venture capitalists. We've been able to support angel investors. As we go along, you will have a number of issues which will keep cropping up. But I think the challenge for the Indian ecosystem is to keep finding solutions to these problems, because this is a completely new innovative area of growth. And we've been able to find a solution for angel investors. Some of them feel that the decision which has gone is about 80% through. There's a little bit of issues still left. We'll discuss with them, and I think we'll definitely find a solution to this problem where angel investors continue to invest. I know a whole range of them, not only from within India, but from outside who do angel investment. And I think it's important that we continue to support them. That's the only way the startup movement in India will continue to grow. So we'll fight for them. We'll aggressively pursue the issues and find the solution.
Right. Mr. Kant, just sticking with that line of questioning, sir, one of the disappointments is that the clarification says that you must have the certification of the IMB. Now, so far, out of the 8,000 odd registered startups with DIPP, merely 86 have been given the IMB certification, sir, and that again leads people to then question the seriousness with which the government wants to take this startup mission forward.
Shereen, I think it's important to understand that every business is not a startup. I mean, the startup is defined as something which is extremely innovative and disruptionist in nature. And, that's the difference between starting any business and starting a startup. And the innovative nature of the business, about it being, it's characterized as being very, very different from normal businesses, has to be, when you're giving a tax exemption for 3 years out of 7 years, the government needs to look at that innovative nature of the business. And that is why that interministerial board was constituted, so that it could figure out. And it has Secretary Science and Technology, etc. And we'll continue to support all innovative businesses and startup as far as this definition is concerned. And when we look at angel investment, we've looked at all startups which will be innovative in nature. Now, to say that I'm going to invest in a normal shop, which is going to be a company which is getting into normal industrial manufacturing, and to say that it's startup, I don't think that's a fair enough proposition. So we must be able to differentiate between an innovative startup and a normal business.
Okay. Okay, I want to get your comments on another issue where the Niti Aayog has been very actively involved, and that has to do with trying to boost digital transactions. Today, the big headline back home here is the cash crunch that we are faced with, the government acknowledging the fact that there has been an unusual spike in the demand for currency over the last 3 months. Now, do you believe somewhere, even though we have seen digital transactions rise to new records, that more needs to be done, especially when it comes to the issue of MDR, etc.? And how do you then explain the fact that as opposed to a less cash economy, we're now talking about coming back to a situation where cash in circulation is back to the pre-demonetization levels, and there is this unusual spike in the demand for currency?
So, Shereen, there are two things. Once demonetization was done, it was also necessary that it's accompanied by a process of remonetization. But that gave us the opportunity to push for digital payments. And if you look at the trends, we've had over 1 trillion transactions, latest figures. We've had close to $1 billion worth of digital payment. Digital payment has really grown. The Bhim UPI has really given, that's a unique model which India has built up. And that has led to a lot of private sector innovation as well. Google, Tej, WhatsApp, many new payments have come up. QR codes have come up. And, this will actually spurt digital payments. And as the smartphone movement grows across India, you will see a lot of this digital payment happening in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities as well. But that's no reason for lack of availability of cash. If India has to grow at high rates, if India has to have normal businesses, we need to ensure that cash is also made available. And both these processes have to go hand in hand together. So I think, as the Secretary DA has already said, a lot of printing of cash note is already underway. And if demand is required for cash, it will be made available by the government.
Yes, he has said that we have enough buffer stock and that more is being printed. But how do you explain this, sir? Because we haven't heard from either the Economic Affairs Secretary or anybody in government as to what seems to be the reason behind this. Is it a seasonal issue linked to agri-production? What is this really about? What would your best educated guess be?
No, my personal view is that it's a demand related to the agricultural sector, and this is a demand relating to the agriculture production season. And therefore, if there's a demand required for agriculture productivity, that liquidity needs to be provided to give a huge impetus to agricultural production. And if it's a requirement by from rural areas coming in, we need to ensure that this demand is fully met in terms of what the DA Secretary has already said in terms of making 500 notes available in all rural areas as well.
But do you think more needs to be done to push the digital cause? You talked about Bhim and you talked about the record volumes that we're seeing in terms of digital transactions. But again, and there is a view that perhaps in terms of incentivizing digital transactions, more needs to be done.
Shereen, I think a lot has been done for incentivizing digital payments. A lot of innovation has been done for pushing the digital payments. I think the technological backend has been very well handled. I think what needs to be done is a lot of more marketing of newer apps. And I think spreading it in a very big way to Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. And as we've spread our GST, I think along with GST, we need to make sure that every merchant in India, and I'm saying this, every merchant in India must have a QR code. That's the easiest simple way to spread digital payments across India. And that's the easiest way digital payment will grow by in quantum jumps. And we've got this QR code now, so we need to give it a big push. But I think important thing is that digital payments have been made very easy, not merely by Bhim UPI, but by Google Tej and by WhatsApp payment. These are very easy mechanisms. So you need somebody to do this education. The new digital mission in Ministry of IT is spreading this through our rural connectivity network, which is in different districts across India. And I think we need to make this a mass movement at at the district and at the subdivision level in rural areas. But QR code will be a very, very effective way of making a quantum jump.
Let me then end by... Yes, sir, go ahead.
Having said that, I must say that India's achievement in digital payment has been absolutely remarkable and commendable. You know, I mean, to have achieved such a major quantum jump in such a short while is a huge, huge achievement for India.
Let me end, sir, by asking you about another issue that the Niti Aayog has been involved with, and that is your recommendation on whether India should move towards simultaneous elections. And the Niti Aayog's view is that, yes, India should move towards simultaneous elections because that will, in a sense, prepare the ground for structural reforms as opposed to short-sighted decisions that, that governments, you believe, often need to take to ensure political stability. Do you believe that we could be moving towards that as early as 2019?
Shereen, I don't know when we'll actually move into this, but to my mind, you know, I've been working on these 115 aspirational districts where the challenge is in terms of providing education, health, and nutrition. And, you know, it's really shocking to see that, you know, you have huge absentia of teachers, and teachers are constantly involved in municipal elections, they're involved in panchayat elections, they're involved in state elections, then they're involved in national elections, and they never get the time to teach. And therefore, the outcome of learnings in our schools is so poor because we're constantly involving our teachers in election process. And the first thing Election Commission must do is to ensure that teachers are not deployed. We are killing our future generations simply because we are taking away teachers for election process. And, you know, I mean, this is damaging the country in the long run. And therefore, my personal view is it's a no-brainer. All elections must be held together. If we need democracy, we need elections, but we need to do this in an efficient manner so that the country's growth and progress is not impacted. We need to put education, health, nutrition, agriculture, all these are critical for India's growth. We can't, you know, I mean, elections are important, they're critical, but we need to do this in an efficient manner.
All right, sir, we'll have to leave it there. Again, thanks very much for joining us from Istanbul, and congratulations, Mr. Kant. Thanks for your time here on CNBC TV 18. The CEO of the Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, there from Istanbul, from the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of Reporter's Diary. Thanks very much for watching. Don't go anywhere. Our special programming continues.